Speaking of Scottish politics, I saw an article in the Sun by Douglas Murray. Actually, he said that I think he said the behaviour of the quote rotten Nicola Sturgeon and her party reeks. He said that the entire party is weak on principles now. Do you think he has a point from your point of view, actually living and under that?
Absolutely, yes. I think that there's, the Salmond inquiry that has been grinding slowly forward for the last what seems like months or years. Has one of the reports, the report that came back from within Parliament was that the First Minister Nicola Sturgeon had misled Parliament. Which basically means that, as far as they were concerned, that what the First Minister had said was not to be trusted. That she had, there can be hardly anything more damning than to have the First Minister, the judgment come down that she had misled Parliament. But the whole process has shown that there's corruption from top to bottom. The Parliament doesn't have the necessary powers to hold government to account. The separation of powers that's supposed to be, the essential component of a liberal democracy is not there. So the executive, the legislature, and the judiciary are supposed to be hands off one another. There's all those three elements are supposed to operate, independently, but the Salmond inquiry demonstrated that the Crown Office, which is the Scottish equivalent of the CPS, the Crown Prosecution Service, so the Crown Office in Scotland was being controlled by the government. So the separation of powers was not there. The Scottish Assembly, the Scottish Parliament doesn't have a second chamber. It doesn't have a House of Lords or equivalent through which legislation can pass and be scrutinised again. That was supposed to be the job of committees, but the committees that were, when the devolution settlement was being thrashed out, at the end of the 1990s, we were told that the necessary committees would have all the teeth they required to, fearlessly scrutinise the proposed legislation and the behaviour of government. Well, they don't. They simply don't. And now the feeling here is that the SNP and the Scottish Government is just a law unto itself, unchallenged, and it's across the Scottish landscape without fear of a meaningful challenge from any other source.
We've talked a lot in this podcast of things that disappoint us, things that may evoke some anger in us. So I'd love to sort of close this conversation by asking what things, because I think it's important, because if you're always looking at life through that political lens, it can be tiring, it can bring you down. So for you personally, what ways do you manage to unplug and tune out from this kind of stuff when it's got you feeling down, when it's got you feeling frustrated? What rejuvenates Neil Oliver?
Well, I get a great deal of profound reassurance from the people that I meet out. I've got two dogs. They're both sleeping in here. I've got two Irish Wolfhounds, and we walk them every day, and we bump into the same people over and over again, and I'm reassured by the common sense that almost all of those people speak with. They don't all completely, they don't 100% agree with 100% of everything that I believe. Yes, Gracie. But I'm reassured by their common sense.